Okay. It's happening. We're here. Hello.
Welcome. Thank you
Welcome.
for coming.
My name is Greg Newton. I am one of the co-founders of the Bureau of General Services Queer Division with my partner, Donnie Jokum. I gave him the night off because he spends a lot of his work time on the Zoom, and all week long. So he's taken a night off. I'm here. The Bureau is a queer bookstore that we founded in 2012. We've been hosting Drae and Tell since 2014. And we're located inside the LGBT Community Center, which is currently closed due to the pandemic. So we don't know when we're going to be reopening, but we did just launch an online store, which we're super excited about. And we're doing lots of online events. And given that this is our reality for the foreseeable future, I think we're going to be doing a lot more online stuff. Was not our goal when we started this. It was to get people into spaces together, but here we are. So yeah, we have a couple of events coming up next week, a kids book about a transgender historical figure from Britain in the 19th century or 18th century. That's on Thursday. Next Friday, we have Poor Queer Studies, Confronting Elitism in the University with Matt Brim. And I will be also on the panel. I'm excited to talk about my lovely experiences in academia. But it's also a really great book. And it's available on our online store, bgsq.com. So please check it out. And thank you to everyone who already donated. Part of that money goes to the Bureau to help us keep doing stuff like this. And the rest goes to our storytellers. So if you haven't donated already and you'd like to, you can also just send us a donation. I put in the chat function on Venmo at BGSQD. And with that, I now give you Drae Campbell. Put your hands together.
Yay, thank you. Thank you. Welcome to Tell. How's everybody doing? You're all looking wonderful and beautiful, and I'm glad that we could gather in the air here. Ooh, I like your little thumbs up there. Yay! We have an amazing lineup tonight. As if you've never been to Tell before, we do it every month with a different theme. Last month the theme was money, I think. I try to keep it sort of like a general theme that has a big umbrella, so that people can sort of specify under that umbrella. And, you know, the premise is, to me, you know, we have to tell and own our own stories on our own terms. And our narrative should belong to us. And I think of, you know, I think back, I've been doing this 6+ years, almost 7 years, right? Wow. In February, maybe 7 years. And to me, it's like I have these, if you mention the person, I could probably remember most of the story or some detail of it. And it is like a quilt in my head. And I think that all of us are sort of knitting together. That is our narrative. And it's super important because so many narratives are imposed upon us, as we know. And I don't, you know, sometimes people don't really realize how oppressive the very idea of a narrative is. So, or how revolutionary the very idea of a narrative can be. And how important it is for us to own it and tell it on our own terms, whether that be physical, funny, tragic, etc. So yeah, I think it's super important, and I just love the way that this event has brought people together in a really nice, sweet way. It's a very loving audience. It always has been, I think, and supportive. Yeah, shiny objects. As a person who's been an entertainer for since I'm like 6 years old and grew up, you know, pretty poor and working class. The shiny object, that's kind of where that comes in for me. You know, if you don't have like stability, you need these shiny objects to sort of find your way out of dark places. And sometimes they lead to dark places, and sometimes they'll bring a shiny object for you and you become mesmerized by them. And sometimes you are a sucker for a pretty face and you don't know what else is connected to that pretty face. Speaking in, you know, general terms, that, you know, you can become mesmerized by what you perceive as a shiny object, even though people should not be objectified. Although I've objectified myself. I've been objectified. I know that I am a archetype of person, and that song that I played has this line where it's a crying song, but it was sang by Adrian Lanker, I think. Where she says, "Ain't it funny how an old broken bottle looks just like a diamond ring?" And that sort of encapsulates it for me. How's everybody doing? Is our first storyteller ready? Yes? Okay, I'm going to read a little bit about you from your bio. Is everybody ready for our first storyteller? I'm excited to have this storyteller. Okay. Zoe Tipp is a Jewish Japanese American queer actor singer and has done a lot of amazing plays, is a seriously professional actor, has worked at Rattlestick, Oregon Shakespeare, and also has something at New Fest this year. Right? Couple things.
Three things at New Fest, actually. Yeah.
3 things at New Fest? Okay, we're gonna have to plug your New Fest stuff too.
Hey.
Put it in the thing. That's so congratulations. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Really, congratulations. That's great.
Thank you.
And you're just, are you an actor in all of them?
Yeah.
Or did you direct them? Okay, great. That's amazing. That is whoo. Yes. And that's it. Oh, wait. Sideways. Oh, the new festings are called Top and Bottom, Sideways Smile, and Dissonance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations. Everybody, please give it up for Zoe Tipp. Yay!
Thank you. Thank you, Drae. Thank
you,
Greg. Thank you so much for having me. And it's really nice to see some faces. All right. I think this is, you said it's like a 10 to 15 minute story. I think I'm going to take the maximum amount of time. So just like get comfortable. When I think of shiny things, I think about sequins, iridescent stick-on earrings, craft store gems you hot glue to a t-shirt, ornate chandeliers, and I get hungry thinking about them. I get hungry for certain sensory experiences, and I like their directness. Abstract desires can be confusing. Career aspirations, relationship ideals, metrics, but sensory hungers are simple and honest. When I'm attracted to someone, I want to smell their perfume or pheromones like it's a special source of oxygen. I need it to fill the bony cavities in my face. I need it in my lungs. Sometimes I get a hankering for a song and I listen to it on a loop for a week straight. And I get visually hungry for shiny things. Since I was a kid, I've loved to ride in a car in the rain. I love how the streetlights get caught in the raindrops on the windshield and refract, and the scene blurs into dancing light like a quiet disco with the wipers giving a soft beat. I love it more at night as the lights look more intense. I love it most when I don't know where we're going, but the driver does. Transport without orientation. When I'm driving now, I try to be safe while letting myself stare at the strobes and light bars on emergency vehicles just a little, even though I know they're out for bad news. but I didn't know that as a kid when I came to love them and to yearn for them even. I've always had this capacity to yearn without an object of desire, sometimes in fact yearning for something to yearn for, which is pretty gay. When I think of shiny things, I think about this round wooden Japanese trinket box I had as a kid, which was probably my grandmother's, my baba-chan's. It was painted with glossy port wine colored lacquer and gold foil flowers on the outside, black matte lacquer on the inside. It was about the size of a grapefruit, squished a little so it could sit on a table. And when I was 8 or so, I had filled it with a collection of sequins and little plastic gems. I do not know how I amassed so many, but when you're assigned female at birth, they hook you up with sequins. It's part of the welcome package, perhaps. I like to save pretty materials for art projects and then never make them into a project. This little urn was like my supply of fairy dust. I love to open it and just stare at the colorful collection sparkling inside the dark wood. And one day, my best friend and I decided to turn my bathroom into a magical portal. We took all the sequins out and covered every surface in the little room with sparkle. This was the same bathroom where I stood on the counter more than once and put my hands to the mirror, hoping I'd pass through it into another world. After seeing a TV show about Alice through the looking glass. And that best friend, I didn't know it at the time, but looking back, I have realized that in my later elementary school years, I had a few girlfriends. We never would have called ourselves that, but we used to play make-believe. We'd make up romantic, speculative fiction about straight couples from shows and movies we liked, and we would role play as these couples. One would be the boy and one would be the girl, and since I was shorter than everyone and boys apparently must be taller, I was always the girl. For instance, that best friend and I pretended to be Ace and Melissa from Ace Ventura 1. I will not get started about my complicated relationship with that movie. We would concoct these vulnerable and dramatic scenarios that would lead us to fully making out, like 8 years old. I made no connection between this and how I perceived my sexuality. I had crushes on boys in school, so I was straight. When I think about shiny things, I think about the stained glass panel next to my front door in the next home I lived in, a condo after the house with the magic portal bathroom. When we had to move, my mom asked for my input and I campaigned hard for this condo so I could be neighbors with my best friend, my Ace and Melissa friend, who lived a few units down. The stained glass in the door had red roses in it, and I guess it might have seemed cheesy looking to some people. It was a little iridescent, a very 90s suburban aesthetic, but it reminded me of the opening sequence to Beauty and the Beast. Fairy tale, romance, enchantment. And when my friend came to the door, I could see her through the shiny glass, and my heart leapt. In 5th grade, my best friend and I got a new friend, and they became closer, and then they decided to become popular, which turned out to necessitate bullying me. One day at recess, I found them whispering and giggling. I asked them why. My best friend said she had told our new friend that she had kissed my boob during our last play date. For some reason, it was clear to all of us that this was something for me alone to be embarrassed of, something my friend had tricked me into. And somehow it seems like telling our secret and laughing at me for it was my friend's way of saying no homo and pointing out me as a weird queer. I didn't have any consciously gay feelings or come out until almost 20 years later. When I think of shiny things, I think of the chandelier in the Phantom of the Opera, a show which I memorized in high school and sang all the parts to, wearing out my original Broadway cast CD. I related to the Phantom for reasons I could not articulate then. That weirdo with his forbidden love who railed against society and lived by candlelight reflected in the subterranean sewage tunnel rivers of Paris. I related to him. But already an actor well informed about type, I dreamt of playing Christine. I had a high voice and people saw me as a pretty girl, and I thought that I was what they saw. When I think of shiny things, I think of the Sputnik chandeliers at the Metropolitan Opera House. I got obsessed with opera for over 10 years, a wild detour from acting. With my light high voice and my pretty girl look at the time in the eyes of that industry, I was perfect for cute and sassy little chambermaid roles. A character named Olympia, who is literally a life-sized doll who sings like a bird, that sort of thing. I was always asking my teachers if I could work on songs written from the male perspective or operatic trouser roles. Not on purpose, I just kept being drawn to them. Trouser roles are played by women with light mezzo voices, a little lower than mine. These characters are plucky, foxy, androgynous young men who often fall in love with older women. I always wanted to sing their arias, but my teachers told me time and again that I would never sing those roles. So I tried hard to be the pretty girl that sang like a bird. I later realized this was a big part of the reason I had incapacitating performance anxiety. I majored in classical singing in college and I had no social life. I practiced hours a day, I overloaded on credits, taking electives, graduate opera courses, and on the weekends, I would often drive from my upstate college back home to Westchester just to go to the Metropolitan Opera by myself. I usually got a ticket in the family circle standing room, which is all the way up and at the back of the house, maybe a half a football field length away from the stage. This is like looking from a 7-story apartment window at people walking down the street a block away. The visuals are impressionistic, but the acoustics up there are fantastic. If I wanted to see a Friday night show, I would just drive directly to the city. My mother complained I never wanted to see her, I just wanted a place to sleep for my opera trips. So when I went to the Met, I projected myself into all the characters, all the genders, all the giant voices. In my studies, I was good with the classic opera languages, Italian, French, German, but I loved most of all to forget what the texts meant and just feel the sounds and the shapes and the tastes of words. In retrospect, the more stereotypically feminine a character was, the more I wanted to forget the meaning of their lyrics. I think I may have been so attracted to opera for those many years because of the way I could get lost in the sound. My identity seemed so fixed then, and even though typecasting in opera is just as, if not more restrictive than in acting, my prospects as an actor were even more particularly tied to the performance of my supposed identity, without that equalizing force of pure sound. I just wanted to become a beautiful noise. The Metropolitan Opera has these famous chandeliers that look like starbursts. They have them in the grand lobby, and they have them in the theater hung halfway down the great height of the hall. When the show is about to start and the orchestra begins tuning, the chandeliers slowly, silently rise up to the gold leaf ceiling, their twinkling lights fading into the dark. Every time I go to that house and that moment comes, my breath stops and I tear up. For years, I wondered why. Now I think that those moments of entering into a theatrical piece are like a liminal space when you cross into a fantasy world. I could be in a school auditorium or a dirty movie theater, and I will always feel this way when the lights go down. I get misty-eyed when I watch a TV show I like and the opening credits play. This is when you release the person you think you are, your assumptions about your fellow audience members. Everyone agrees to enter the reality of the spectacle that is about to begin. Everyone agrees to believe together. I have 3 parents, and the fragmentation in my life around them has been brutal in some respects, but all 3 of them subscribed to that magic and had a hand in cultivating my love and belief in it. My mother gave me the idea that an operatic voice was the most beautiful sound in the world. We used to sing arias together full out, not knowing the meaning of a single word. My stepmother taught me about the Met chandeliers and the mystique of the house and the opera experience like a legend before I ever went there. And my father always gets teary when a theatrical performance is about to start. My parents didn't understand my queerness for a while, or not explicitly at least. I didn't even know I should try to tell them until fairly recently. But when they would come to my performances, community theater plays, voice recitals, we all agreed to enter those spaces together. Other realities where I was a girl or a boy or a cartoon dog or a vulture, or where I was trying to just become a sound. They are not effusive praise givers, but they would, and still now, get a shiny look in their eyes while applauding. When I think of shiny things, I think of a sequin-covered packer. Sequins like the ones I had in that red lacquer bowl as a child. I will explain. I was in a play at the beginning of this year, you know, during the time we were all super spreading COVID and didn't know it. The show got canceled in the middle of the run, which was when everything went on lockdown. The show was about 6 cisgender gay men in conversion therapy camp, but all the characters were played by AFABs, that is, people assigned female at birth. There was some simulated nudity where we were dressed in these wild bodysuits with packers, fake penises. The show was farcical, if you hadn't figured that out yet. So the packers were all made of pretty flamboyant fabric, the likes of which you could find on children's Halloween fairy costumes. My penis, my packer, was covered in this bright violet sequined fabric. My character was described as effeminate. I had come out as non-binary only a couple of years prior to this. I was afraid if I went too femme in the character, people would just read me as a girl. But the character made me stronger in my fluidity. And this sparkly packer woke up some sense of gender play, some security and being a kind of pretty boy. The show was, of course, incredibly intimate. Our characters were fucking, falling in love, grabbing each other's fake junk, abusing each other, playing dream sequences about the most traumatic and tender moments of our lives, and collectively liberating ourselves from an oppressive captor. And it all culminated in a scene in the desert after we had escaped. We all stripped down to our jumpsuits, packers swinging, and defiantly, victoriously shouted, "Faggot!" at each other as it began to rain for the first time after a long drought. I was the only actual queer among the other actors, interestingly. But in this moment, every night I felt so together in queerness and liberation from gender and binaries of all kinds with these straight cis women. Since the show ended early and abruptly and was immediately followed by the rest of 2020, trying to find closure was a little more difficult than usual, and I will tell you, it's usually difficult. Sequins. Sequins go everywhere and stick to everything. The herpes of theater, people say. Or maybe that's glitter. But anyway, somehow, one of my packer sequins made it home to my apartment. I found it on the floor about a week after the show had closed while I was vacuuming. I carefully vacuumed around it. I found it a few more times over the following couple of months, and I carefully went around it each time until, well, I haven't seen it for a while now. But when I'm lying on the floor vacuuming, sometimes I expect to see it glint at me from an unexpected corner. I don't need names for these things, these feelings, these portals, the pre-overture moment when the chandeliers rise, when the lights start glowing, when you put the sequined penis on, when that rain in the windshield refracts the streetlights and send you into reverie, when we go through the looking glass. These experiences were real to me before I could articulate them or try to explain them. I didn't have a name for why I wanted to sing the Foxy Page Boys. I didn't have a name for what the falling chandelier in Phantom of the Opera meant. I didn't have a name for the rising of the Sputniks at the Met. More restrictive were the no homo moments, the getting identified as a character type or vocal type as a gender, being assigned names. You can only use names for things you already have a set of expectations for. The more interesting feelings are the ones you don't have names for yet, and they come through the senses first, not words. The more you get to know someone, the more contradictions they have, the less they fit into names, categories, archetypes. Everybody has a fuller spectrum than at first glance. So I think it's no coincidence queers stereotypically appreciate sparkly or shiny things and rainbows. It's light refraction, it's expansion, it's transport without orientation. So when I see someone talk about a weird thing they love or get into a flow state at their job or get emotional about a song or laugh at something surprising or have a look in their eyes that I somehow deeply recognize, it seems simple and honest, and my senses get hungry. It's like a shiny thing. It's like sequins in a dark bowl, street lights through raindrop prisms at night. It's like a chandelier in a dark theater. And I always want more and more of these moments. I'm very hungry for them now. As an actor, I get that feeling at work in a way that cannot be replicated. From my colleagues and pouring out of the audience, their investment and faith in the experience, our collective belief and sense of possibility. When I see shiny things, it brings up all that longing, all that history, that feeling when I was a kid and wanted things I didn't know I wanted. I could list a few more, but you get the idea. Thank you.
Yay! Turn off your mic or unmute your mic so everybody you can hear everybody. Yay!
Woo!
That was really gorgeous.
Beautiful.
Gorgeous. Okay, mute yourselves again. So that was amazing. So many things. Sensory hungers. Sensory hungers is so real right now. Oh my goodness. Ace Ventura role playing? Anyone? I love it. Wow. It's like what was happening in your world at that time is who you end up role playing. I think mine was like Rick Springfield and Olivia Newton-John. That's all I'm saying. Wait, what was the other thing? I want you, that was like such a beautiful piece of writing. The way that you connected like queerness and all, literal actual shiny things and what they mean and sequins. Oh my God. But I feel like I want you to write a book called Sparkly Packer or just do a show, a different show.
There are
Sparkly.
even more stories just in that experience that
That's experience. What are you allowed to say the name of that play? That play sounds.
Yeah, I mean, everyone could look me up and know what play I just did. It was Bundle of Sticks. It was by J. Julian Christopher, and it was at Intar.
Bundle of Sticks is what a faggot is, right?
Yeah. Right. It was really intense. It's really intense.
That's literally for folks who don't know. Maybe you do or don't. I don't know. The word faggot means bundle of sticks. And I think it has to do with burning people, right? Probably.
I think so.
Wow, what a show. I want to hear more about that show. And your Sparkly Packer. Oh, Sparkly Packer. Oh. But I also love that moment where like you have this sequence still lingering in your house that you vacuum around. I know I have objects like that in my house and I'm like, you're not garbage, but you're just there and I'm not doing anything. And then disappears and comes back and you're like, I see you, literal sparkly shiny object. Oh, thank you so much. Yay, give it up for Zotip. Yay. That was really wonderful. And put your links of your New Fest films. New Fest is all weekend, folks. If you want to see some queer film and television, put your links in the chat. Okay, is our next storyteller ready? Yay! All right, let me. Oh, what did I do with my phone? I'm going to read a little bit about you, and then give you the floor.
Okay.
Hold on, just a second. Kate McDonough is a performing artist, writer, storyteller, and community organizer. Kate's work explores generational cycles of violence, healing, and transformation through the documentation of family members' personal stories. This sounds amazing. Kate is also currently working on this. I really love this, on a sci-fi series about cats.
Yeah.
That is maybe the most important part of your bio, actually. Like how do you follow that? Kate has been organizing in New York City and state for over a decade, and they are currently the director of Dignity in Schools Campaign New York, a citywide multi-stakeholder educational justice coalition. Kate grew up in the Bronx and currently lives in Brooklyn. Give it up for Kate McDonough. Yay, welcome, thank you. Glad you finally get to tell, yay.
I'm super excited. And I also give a plug. I am I am in a New Fest film, but not, I'm like an extra, but it's Flourish. It's an amazing film. Y'all should check it out.
Yes, I was going to tell people about Flourish. My friend Heather wrote and directed it. It's got an amazing cast. It's a beautiful, super queer, wonderful short. And it's a follow-up to the first film that she made called Flesh, right? Yeah. I didn't know that you did that. Yay!
Yeah,
that's
I'm
awesome.
a party attendee.
Yay!
But anyway, to shiny objects. So when I was thinking about shiny objects, I realized how much I actually really love shiny objects. Like everything from shiny jewelry to like this jacket. I don't know if you can see, it kind of shines. Like I got it for the shine. I love shiny bowls, like everything. Super into shiny objects. And upon realizing this love, I thought a little deeper and I was like, well, there must be a root. Like, what is my shiny object root? Why do I feel so safe and drawn to these things? And when I really thought about it, I think it was actually the time that a shiny object saved me. So here's that story. So when I was 5, my mom did like the most amazing thing, which was put me in one of my favorite outfits. And at the time, that was this like blue shirt with a nice pointed collar and these really cool pants that had like green and blue ziggies all over it. You know, this was late 80s, early 90s, so zig was in. I also had this fabulous, what we called pixie cut, which was just code for short hair that they put on people that weren't boys. And I was feeling myself. I was super excited. Then my mom did the worst possible thing ever. She took me to a kindergarten classroom full of strangers, people I had never seen before in my entire life, but strangers who all seemed to know each other or didn't care that they didn't know each other. Strangers who didn't realize that this classroom was much bigger than my preschool classroom, that the blocks were in the wrong spot, and that there were no puzzles anywhere gracefully scattered about where perhaps shy children could go and play and feel like they were included. Who does this? Who hides the puzzles? So she took me to this terrifying ocean of strangers and left me there. Left me in the ocean of the strangers. But before I was, left to doggy paddle in these waters, she gently grabbed my hand and took me to the middle of the room and said, "Look at that clock. When that big arrow hits the 12 and that little arrow hits the 3, that's when I will be here to pick you up." And then she kissed me and departed into the waters. Well, like any reasonable 5-year-old who doesn't understand the concept of time, I figured the best thing for me to do was to stand in the middle of that room and look at that clock and wait until the big arrow hit the 12 and the little arrow hit the 3, because then I could go home. So I did. That's what I did in my fabulous outfit and pixie cut. I just stood there in the middle of the room watching these arrows. And to be fair, the big arrow was already at the 12. The little arrow just had to stop hanging out with that 8 and jump on over to the 3, and we were good to go. A few seconds passed, which felt like centuries. And an increasing sense of doom started to fill my chest as I realized these arrows move very slow, like slower than snails. And I have watched snails move. You can see them move but they are slow. And these arrows are slower than the snails that I have watched move. And the arrows are not moving. And as I realized that the arrows are not moving, or maybe even moving slower than snails, another thing became a reality. I was not getting out of this terrifying ocean of strangers who did not care that the blocks were in the wrong place and who, I guess, met up secretly to hide puzzles. Seriously, who hides the puzzles? And then the most terrifying reality of all hit me. I'm going to have to socialize with these blockading, puzzle hiding strangers, because I'm not getting out of here anytime soon. Now, it wasn't that I hated other people. Like, I actually did like to socialize and have friends. I just found that people had a hard time with me. Because as you see, when they would look at me and with my wonderful pointed collar and pants with the zigzags and my pixie cut, and then they would hear that my name was Kate, their eyes would squint and their face would kind of turn, and I would get this expression of like confusion and disgust and wonder and anger all mixing together. And they would pause and they would say, "Don't you know that's a girl's name?" And then they would pause again and they would whisper, "I thought you were a boy. What's going on? What are you wearing?" And I would just, awkwardly shrug it off and just be like, "I'm a Kate, I don't know." But the folks who really had the biggest problem with not being able to really figure out my gender during this period had to have been my kindergarten teachers. So we had Mrs. Sacknoff, who had this amazing auburn hair that kind of like poofed back and fluffed out, late 80s, early 90s poofs. And then we had Mrs. Maddox, who had kind of a salt and pepper look, who also had a bit of a pixie cut, but it was a poofy, femmier version of a pixie cut that, was very popular during that time. And every day they would greet me with these narrowed eyes and these pained smiles. And every time these narrowed eyes would follow me throughout the classroom as they took tabs of what they perceived as troubling behavior. And every time they met with my parents, they would get a report card of all the horrible things that I did that day that were very concerning. Kate wears shirts with pointed collars as opposed to shirts with rounded collars. Did you know this? For Kate's birthday, she picked a blue construction paper to be created into a crown as opposed to the pink construction paper. And then when we put the crown on Kate's head and said, "All hail the birthday queen," Kate said, "No, I am the birthday king." And to be fair, I didn't know that kings and queens had genders. I just someone was teaching me about the patriarchy, and I just knew that kings and queens had kings had more powers than queens. And I was like, I want to be where the power is, so call me a king. Then troubling behavior turned into general overall alarming concern. If we don't hurry up, Kate will forever be confused about her gender. If you don't do something right now, they warned my parents, Kate will grow up and become a lesbian, which would be the worst possible thing ever. It will bring shame upon our school, shame upon your family, shame upon the Bronx neighborhood that we're growing up in right now, and everyone will have a horrible life. It will be horrible. And then suddenly, when my behavior did not shift, troubling behavior and general concerns shifted into, maybe there's something wrong with the family. Maybe there's something wrong with the parents, because goodness gracious, who lets their child run around in pixie cuts and pointed collars and pants with zigzags on them? What is wrong with these people? So at one point, it was decided that something needed to happen. So one day, my mom picked me up from the terrifying ocean of strangers who really did not care for the feelings of blocks and destroyed puzzles, and put me into our wonderful, safe ship of magic and light, AKA our car, and drove me home. And as we went by our house, a wonderful sense of calm and peace and excitement. And I couldn't wait to go inside and be in my room. And then I realized we are passing our house. We are not going home. Tentatively, I looked up at my mother and I said, where are we going? And my mom, who was always very blunt and to the point, just very flatly said, to get your ears pierced. The trickery, I tell you. Suddenly my safe passage turned into a trap and I did not know how to get out of it. We pulled up to the jewelry store, and as I approached the door, I decided to do what any sensible 5-year-old who realized that they don't really have too much control over their life decided to do, which was make my body limp, make it very hard to get me into that chair. I probably didn't weigh that much because I was in that chair very fast. And as the earring gun started to approach my ear, I just thought, resist as best as you can. And so I just started shaking my head, and I shook it and I shook it and I shouted, I will not stop shaking my head. And then it was followed by, no, 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 no. Then there was a pause. And I was lifted from the chair. And as I was floating in what felt like space, then I caught this like wonderful shine caught my eye. And when I was placed down and I looked up, I saw it. It was this beautiful diamond bunny shimmering in the jewelry case as the sun was just shining through the windows of the jewelry shop. And I looked up and I said to my mom, what is that? And my mother goes, that is a brooch. Sometimes women wear brooches on their shirts. And I said, I would wear that. What if we did that instead? So the air lifted, we purchased the bunny pin, and the next day I wore this pin to school with my shirt with the blue pointed collar, because the bunny had a lovely little blue like diamond eye, and I thought it would match really well. And when I got to class and I opened up my jacket, and my classmates' eyes went right to the bunny. And then they looked at me and they said, what are you wearing? Which was very different from, what are you wearing? And from that point on, I wore a pin to school every day. And every day my teachers would greet me with slightly less narrowed eyes and a not as pained smile. And every day, for a brief moment, as my classmates or the horrible strangers who destroyed blocks and did away with puzzles would gather around me, and with excitement to see what was my pin that day. And for that brief moment, the terrifying ocean that was my classroom would soften and become this gentle stream that bent towards me, as opposed to the horrible riptide that would always try to force me to bend towards their ocean. And that is it.
Unmute and clap, yay!
Woo! Woo! Okay, yes.
You really gotta look at the chats.
Hey, Bunny.
Mwah. Yes.
Look at the chats, Kate. People are living for Diamond Bunny and Birthday King. Zoe, did you write "We Stand Birthday King"? I love Birthday King. That was really, both of these stories I felt so seen by the like transcendence of feminine and masculine in shiny objects, right? Thank you, Kate. That was quite a storyteller. I mean, it's your job, right? So like, It's what I do, everybody. So I got this.
Sometimes. Also, hi mom, hi dad, hi B.
Oh, parents.
Aaron.
Wait, I have a question. Did you actually get the ears pierced, or did it stop when you saw the bunny?
It stopped when I saw the bunny. Later on,
bunny?
I would, like, choose to get ears pierced, and it would go back and forth. But like, yeah, the bunny ended
So
it.
the bunny was like a passport that got you through a lot of stuff from there on.
Yes.
It was like Bunny was like this little being that showed up and was like, come on, honey. Come on, little pixie haircut, boo. Oh, that's so great.
Basically guide you through kindergarten.
Oh, that's so good. Yay. Did you name the bunny?
I don't know. I don't think we had a name for the bunny. I just remember always like looking at it and being grateful for it. Like whenever I would like peruse because I had a box of pins that I would like go through every morning to like pick out. And I remember every now and then I was just like, hello, old friend.
Oh, do you still have Bunny? Hello, old friend.
I don't know.
If you do, post a pic somewhere, because we need to see that bunny.
It's Kate. It's
What?
The bunny's here somewhere.
Ah, is that your
That would be my dad confirming that the bunny is somewhere in
Somewhere,
that
we don't
home
know
that he's
where.
living in
It's
right now.
around. I'm sure at some point I'll find it.
Oh, he still is. Are you still in the Bronx with the bunny? No. Okay. Just checking. Just out of curiosity. Oh, that was really wonderful. It reminded me, because I have so many shiny objects that are like in my memory that your stories are triggering my memories. My mom, we used to sell jewelry and other things at the flea market to make money, and my mom would collect, like she would just buy piles and piles of jewelry, and we called it junk jewelry, but she was always looking through it for something of value that we could then sell. So because her eyes weren't as good as mine, and I was like 7 or 6 years old, she would be like, look and see if that says 24 karat gold on it. Constantly. Or like we'd be like scratching diamonds and like, nah, that's just a rhinestone, honey. Like it was just like a constant like, is this anything? Oh, just like wading through tons of shiny objects looking for the shiniest object. And that's life. Anyway, is our next storyteller ready? Are you ready? Yay! I'm so excited. I'm going to read a little bit about you on your bio, if I may. Da, 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 da. In one moment, when I can access it. Yes. I really like your bio, by the way. Pleasure to read. And now you all hear it. Caresse Fernandez is a storyteller currently residing on unceded Tongva, did I say that correctly? Tongva territory in Long Beach, California. She has had poetry and prose featured in publications such as Mercado Vicente, and is currently working on telling stories through film and television. Her experience as a queer Filipina-American inform much of her writing around themes of identity in the diaspora and mental health. When she isn't writing, Caresse can be found telling stories through dance, desperately tending to the many house plants she has ambitiously accumulated in quarantine, or creating superfluous portmanteau puns. We're going to have an example of that. Much to her partner's dismay. Everybody give it up for Caresse Fernandez. Yay! Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I can't think of a pun off the top of my head because I'm a little nervous, but maybe after this I can throw one out there. Oh, thank you. All right. So when I first started thinking about this theme, I was tempted to talk about the shiny pole behind me, or maybe my vanity and narcissism with a bedroom full of shiny mirrors. Or maybe the year my partner and I had broken up and shiny object syndrome was in full swing as I fell in love with the idea of relationships with so many women and men, putting pussies and penises on pedestals like it was no one's business. But that seems like a lot to unpack. So instead, I'm going to talk about the shiny objects dangled before my parents and their parents and their parents that started this dastardly cycle of intergenerational trauma. Because that's not a lot to unpack, right? I became interested in hearing more personal stories about my family the night before my grandma went back to the Philippines. After living in the US for over 30 years and raising my siblings and me, she was ready to go home. The night before she left, we had dinner at the Stinking Rose, and along with the aromatic entrees, Lola had had some wine, and she was ready to spill the tea. She shared stories of her secret reunion with her high school sweetheart, elopements, and tons of other family secrets. All of these solemn portraits I had seen of my great-grandparents were painted in a more human manner by my grandmother's stories, and it only made me want to learn more about them. So that night sparked my interest in learning more about our family. I'd bugged my dad about our family history for years to no avail. And I get it, because getting past our family's more recent history can be hard. From the 60s through the 80s, Ferdinand Marcos turned his presidency of the Philippines into a dictatorship under martial law. Everyone wanted to get out, and thankfully my grandmother and my parents were able to make it out here to LA. My dad had practiced law in the islands, but he couldn't manage to do so here as an immigrant, so he went after the American dream in another way. He created 3 businesses: a shipping company for Pinoy immigrants to send goods back to the homeland, a ticketing agency for Philippine Airlines, and a Filipina-American newspaper to keep immigrants here informed of what was going on back home. Before the internet was available to everyone, he did all he could to keep people connected to the homeland, and he was doing pretty well. But then greed took over our family, and our uncle, who had been overseeing the shipping company across the Pacific, started stealing money and clients. The bookkeepers for the ticketing agency and the newspaper worked in a similar fashion, and the competition of the internet didn't help. This, on top of the financial crisis in 2008, rendered all of these businesses bankrupt. So we sold our house, moved in with my grandma, and started getting used to food stamps right before my brother left for the army. My dad was broken and fell into alcoholism and depression. This strained his ties with our family for years, and I could see why the thought of discussing our family history could be painful. But then the coronavirus happened and shoved us all together. We had nothing to do but face the past, and my dad finally felt ready to entertain my desire to learn more about our family. One day he catches me in the kitchen and he says, "Caresse, it is time to learn about the family. Get your laptop." So there I am, ready to take notes, and bless his dear soul, he gets into full-on professor mode. Hands behind his back, he starts pacing around the kitchen island to take me back to where it all started on the island. Your great-grandfather was a lawyer and one of the first graduates of the University of the Philippines School of Law, when most of the professors were still American professors, including President William Howard Taft. Howard Taft became a Supreme Court Justice of the Philippines and was Governor General of the Philippines before he became President of the US. My dad said that with such pride, and as much as it pains me, I can't really fault him for it. It made sense because he had also been a lawyer in the Philippines. He was taught to live by the American legal system as it was indoctrinated in the islands by one of our many colonizers. It was his pride in the other colonists that made my blood boil. So a quick history lesson for those who might not be aware. The US had its hold over the islands from 1898 to 1946, but before that, the Spanish had settled on the islands and named them Las Islas Filipinas in honor of King Philip in 1565, and the colonizers ran rampant until the Philippine Revolution in 1898. So during the Spanish rule, the galleon trade brought silver from New Spain, which pretty much bound the islands to the settlers by looping them into their economy. Now, I can only imagine the lure of the shiny coins over our natives, but these aren't the shiny objects that I want to rant about. So my dad goes on to talk about how our family's specific region had been favored by the Spanish. During Spaniard rule, there were two favored clans, the Tagalogs, short for Taga-Ilog, which means by the river, and the Kapampangans, short for by the Pampang, meaning by the banks of the river, which is where we are from. And from these clans, the Ilustrados were chosen. So the Ilustrados were the enlightened ones, a group of children sent to Europe to study the ways of the West and bring them back. They were also given royal lands on the islands from the King of Spain upon their return. That's right, they were given their land back for being enlightened, not because they were native to the land before. So it turns out we had Ilustrados in our own family, and they were of the highest regard. I really pay my respects to them because I know I wouldn't have the life I have now without them. But this shiny idea of the Ilustrado is what breaks my heart. The shiny idea objectified my ancestors into native colonizers themselves with the objective of bringing back European nationalist ideas and coded them as the shiny enlightened ones. The shiny idea of democracy and the legal system that the US brought to the islands breaks my heart because it only wrought corruption through the Marcos administration and now likely fascism with Duterte. The shiny ideas of capitalism and the American dream break my heart because they almost broke my family after my parents ran from the Marcos administration to chase this dream of mass material objects, only to have 3 businesses fail and nothing to show for it but alcoholism, depression, and anxiety. These shiny ideas that lured my parents and theirs before them may have brought me where I am today, but now they're nothing but dull to me. Thanks.
Yes, thank you.
Woohoo!
Yes.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yes.
Thank you for
Woo.
what else can be said other than I love seeing you impersonate your father with the glasses and the pacing and the
I didn't even do the full-on accent. I tried at the beginning, but I couldn't bring myself, so I just embodied his personality.
right. You just I saw the posture change and I enjoyed that very much. And thank you for I'm left sort of speechless because that was really great and wonderful, and I'm honored that you shared that with us. Thank you.
Thank you for letting me share.
Oh yeah.
Thanks,
Do
everyone.
you feel less nervous now? Do you feel better?
I do, yeah. This was my
Good.
first storytelling show, so I got it all out of the way. I'll keep doing it. Yeah.
Yay! Will you come back and tell again? I hope.
I'd love to, yeah.
You can, and also, you can dance. You can do whatever you want, however you want to tell. Yeah. People,
Wow.
Heather's in the chat what? That was your first time? Amazing. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, read the chat.
Thanks, everyone.
Yes, thank you. Give it up again for Caresse. Yay. That was really great and wonderful. People know so little about, all they know about the Marcos is Imelda Marcos and her shoes here in the States, for the most part. And that's pretty much it. I feel like that's what, the sensibility. Well, we're in the United States, so I don't have to tell. Yes, we will put everyone's social media, or people can put their own social media in the chat. Heather is here, my friend Heather, who Kate was just talking about, is an extra in Heather's film, Flourish, who we were just plugging that earlier before you were here, Heather. Because Zoe is in 3 films at New Fest. I have the web series, and you and Kate, Flourish. Very exciting. Are you still there, Heather?
I'm here. I'm just being quiet for once in my life. Hey, thank you. Yes, everybody check out New Fest. There's so much amazing queer work. So thank you,
Yeah.
Kate, for the shout out for Flourish. And
Yeah. Tell the folks a little bit about Flourish.
oh my goodness, I wasn't
Just
even.
we're just going to take a moment to do this for Heather.
So Flourish is a project of FemPower Productions, which is my queer femme-led production company. It's a queer intersectional short film. It's about a drag queen that is struggling to disentangle from an unhealthy relationship and a crew of cute queers who are stumbling through non-monogamy. So there's all kinds of queer intersectional babes in it. It's all original work.
And there's lots of shiny objects.
And there are so many shiny objects.
It's all shiny objects.
Everyone in it is a shiny object. The costumes are shiny objects. The looks are shiny objects. Everyone's little hearts and souls are shiny objects. So yes, please check it out. It's like $12 and it's part of a lineup of other amazing short films. The program is about queer spaces. So something that I'm very much missing right now. And I appreciate you all creating this virtual online space. And thank you so much for the stories that y'all are sharing. I was really just trying to like listen and make food. And I can't tear myself away from the screen. You're all so incredible. Thank you so much.
What we love to hear. And Heather, you know, actors and performers alike, Heather's always like casting and writing stuff. And this is going to be a series. So, you know, stay in touch with everybody on social media, check each other out, get connected.
Yes.
This is how we do community, you know?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, babes.
Thank you, Heather.
Drae, you muted yourself.
Drae, you're muted.
You're muted, Drae.
I'm just sitting there talking too. Like this is how we stay connected, everybody. Blah 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 blah. To my dog across on the other couch over there. She's like, "What are you? Why?" She's like, "I'm not in New Fest. The fuck are you talking about?" Is our where are you? There you are. Our final storyteller of the night. Are you ready?
Yeah. Hi.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you. By the way, this storyteller has dialed in. It's what, 2:30 in the morning in from Beirut, and so this is our first time having someone internationally at Tell, because normally we do Tell live, and the last, I don't know, 5 or 6 months, however long that we've been doing it, we haven't really gone outside of New York, which is so silly. So now Dima has made us realize, hey, since we're online, we can go all over the world. Yeah, figured it out. Okay. Anyway, I'm very excited. I'm going to read a little bit about your bio before I bring you on. Hold on. Okay. Do you want me to say your middle name? I don't want to say it incorrectly.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
You can.
Okay. Dima Mikhayel Matta, is that correct?
Not bad.
Thank you. Is a Beirut-based writer and actress. She received a Fulbright scholarship and completed her MFA in creative writing from Rutgers in 2013. She's been acting for the stage since 2006. In 2014, she founded Cliffhangers, the first bilingual storytelling platform in Lebanon, and hosts monthly storytelling events. Woo! We have so many parallel things. Storytelling events along with parallel events such as storytelling workshops and performances. Cliffhangers is a nonprofit initiative that aims to give platform for marginalized voices and serves as a safe space for people to share their stories. Her first play, This Is Not a Memorized Script, This Is a Well-Rehearsed Story, that's the title, an autobiographical play on queerness and her relationship with the city, toured in London, New York, and Belfast, and premiered in Beirut in February 2020. She's currently working on her second play. Give it up for Dima Matta!
Hi, everybody. Hi.
Thank you.
Drae, thanks for having me. It's good to see everybody. It's 2 a.m., so it's been a long day. I'll tell you why later. It's part of the story. And I prepared a story, and I'm a little old-fashioned. I have a red notebook, and it just has the clitoris, and it says in Arabic, "I'm a storyteller," which really is all you need in life. So yeah, I'm gonna be looking at my notes sometimes. So I don't like shiny things at all. When I used to wear lipstick, it had to be red matte lipstick. When I used to wear nail polish, it was matte red nail polish. I don't like jewelry that is shiny. None of my rings are. So I really tend to stay away from shiny things. They always felt, and photographs, shiny photographs, right? Like they have to be matte. Like I don't understand. But anyway, so that's just. So when Drae posted that the theme of the night is shiny objects, I'm like, sure, like okay. But I do want to tell you that a year ago, I was at a bar, and I was on a date, and it was not a great date. We didn't have much to talk about. And suddenly I look around the bar, and people are all looking at their phones. And people were talking and whispering, and a woman next to me says, did you see what is happening? And I said, what is happening? And she says, people are on the streets, like in the thousands, all over the country. So I look at my phone, right, Facebook, everything, and people were in the streets. They were chanting, they were burning tires, they were, I don't know, they were all over the place. And I just couldn't sit still. I'm like, okay, well, this date is boring. So like I need an exit. And a revolution was a great exit. Like if there was ever a good way to end a bad date, it was a revolution. So I'm like, great, I'm out of here, peace. And I took a cab, and the cab driver just like was just kind of navigating fires, like burning tires all over. And I'm like, okay, you can drop me off here. And I go down and I join my other friends who are already there. And we're thousands of people already, downtown Beirut, near the parliament. And there was a collective anger and a collective just ball of energy. And everybody had their phones up and with the flashlight on. And so there's a sea of thousands of shiny things. See what I did there? So, and everybody was saying the same word, revolution. And so I took a photo of that. And that is the first photo I took of the October 17th, 2019 revolution in Lebanon. And so for the next weeks, that's all I did. I was in the streets all the time, protesting, chanting, blocking roads. So we'd wake up in the morning before the sun would come up, and I'd get my coffee and head to the nearest roadblock. And there was a queer roadblock. I just want everybody to know this. It was where we all kind of knew that's where the queers were blocking the road. And so everybody, even though it was like 5 a.m., everybody would be really good looking because we know that's where we're seeing all the queers. So yeah, we'd get there, and we'd just sort of form a line in the middle of the road to stop people from basically getting to their jobs. So the whole point is to paralyze the city or the country the way the government is paralyzing us and paralyzing the city and the country. And it was lovely because the queers always have the best ideas. And so one of them just saw a broken washing machine on the side of the road and just dragged it to the middle of the road. And then this other person saw a huge potted plant and dragged it and just sat on top of the washing machine with a little Lebanese flag in her hand, just like waving it and like legs crossed, like, we're here and you're not passing through. So that was wonderful. And then the sun would come up and everything was golden, right? All the buildings, all the rooftops, everything was shining. And that was beautiful. But I'm supposed to tell a story about shiny objects and not about the revolution. But I kept thinking for days since I told Drae I would tell the story about what I would talk about. And I just feel like I can't talk about anything else. This is all I want to talk about. This is all I can talk about. And I think over the past year, the world has lost so much. And I feel like in Lebanon, we lost more than we could ever handle. So we are facing a pandemic and we are facing a crippling economic collapse. So the price of everything has more than quadrupled. The Lebanese pound so a dollar would be 1,500 Lebanese pounds. Now a dollar is 8,500 Lebanese pounds. So about 50% of the population lives under the poverty line, and people are going hungry. And over this past year, a lot of my Palestinian friends have been sending me messages, checking up on me, asking me how I'm doing. Hi, Saruna. And you know, it's really bad when Palestinian people check up on you. Like, we worry about you. Like, we're fucked. If Palestinians are asking about how we're doing, we're not doing okay. So that was like that's how you know. That's how you know. And I've reached a point where I really don't want to see the silver lining. If there's a light at the end of the tunnel, I don't see it, and I don't want to see it. I kind of want to just examine the devastation that we're all in and sit in it and sit with it, because I feel like if I don't, then we forget, and forgetting is the first step in staying still. And we've been doing that for too long here. So since the beginning of the pandemic and quarantine, the lockdown, I've become obsessed with taking a look at the Facebook memories. So as soon as it's after midnight, I go to the tab that says Facebook memories, and I want to know exactly what I posted on this day a year ago, or 3 years ago, or 7 years ago. What was I doing? What kind of person was I 2 years ago, 4 years ago? So 10 years ago, I thought I was straight and I had a horrible sense of fashion. But about 3 years ago, I remember posting, I saw that I posted this quote, and it says, "As if a city can be illuminated and destroyed in the same instant." And on August 4th, 2020, that's exactly what happened in Beirut. The third biggest non-nuclear explosion devastated the city. And more than 200 people died, more than 6,000 people were injured, and more than 300,000 people lost their homes. And for the longest time, our parents and the older generation told us that you don't know Beirut if you didn't know it before the Civil War, so before 1975. And now I think people will be saying, you don't know Beirut if you didn't know it before August 4th, 2020. So I feel like I lost my city. I woke up this morning, and today is October 17th, 2020, a year since the revolution started. And I was just crying. I couldn't stop crying. And I ordered breakfast. And when the delivery guy came, I was still in my underwear with like red eyes and puffy eyes. And I looked horrible. But I had to go get my breakfast. I opened the door, get my breakfast. My cat is just like walking around me. And the delivery guy says in Arabic, your eyes are shining. And your eyes are shining meant that there are tears in my eyes. So they're shining. That's how they say it in Arabic. And I said, yeah, I'm allergic, and pointed to my cat, right, who's been with me for 2 years. But that was the only excuse I could think of, that I'm allergic to my own pet. And he's like, oh, bye, right? What can you say to that? And he left. And then a few hours later, I got dressed and headed down to the streets, headed downtown to join thousands of people who are there to remember a year passing since the beginning of the revolution, and to commemorate the October 4th blast and the people we lost. And there was music, and people were dancing, people were chanting, people were again saying the word revolution, and it was beautiful. It was beautiful, and it was sad at the same time. This time last year, we had so much hope. We couldn't get out of the streets. We just wanted to be there all the time. We had major FOMO because we felt like everything that was worth living was happening in the streets. And whenever we would go home, then life would be on pause until we could go back to the streets. And then we walked from downtown to the port, which is where the explosion happened. And everybody, so thousands of people, stood for a moment in silence in memory of the lives that we lost. And at that point, the sun set over the port, and the sea was shining. And right next to the port, there's a bronze statue of a man in traditional Lebanese wear. And the name of the statue is the first Lebanese immigrant. And this was from the 1800s. And ever since the pandemic, the economic collapse, and the Beirut blast, almost all of my friends have left. They've gone to other cities, to better cities, whatever that means. And people have been leaving this country since the 1800s. And everything around this statue was destroyed, but the statue still stands. So I remembered the poem that I got the quote from by Bridget Bates. And she writes, as if we need to be survivors in order to be free. Right now, everybody in Beirut is a survivor. We're lucky because we didn't die. I have friends who were where the blast happened a minute before it did. We're all alive by chance. We're all survivors. But right now, sitting at home, when there's a pandemic that is killing us, where there's a government that is killing us, I don't know if I would say we were free. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Wow. I can't believe it's exactly a year ago tonight, right?
Yeah.
So much has happened in a year. So did you ever hear from that person you went on the date with again? That's kind of what I want.
Well, the thing is, During all the protests for months, whenever you'd head down to the streets, thousands of people, but you'd hear all the feminist chants, down with the patriarchy, etc. And that's where, the queers are. So you'd all head there. So it's all your exes and all the people you've slept with, just like there, waiting to topple the government. And make you feel awkward in the process. So
that's very similar to New York, I feel.
I'm sure.
It's like any queer community. It's like you're gonna go and you're gonna be like, oh, there's my ex. But let's fucking fight. Roadblock. Am I right, folks? Am I right?
Yeah.
I also was like, these are some major quotes. Queer roadblock. Queers have the best ideas. I love it. And everything was golden. I loved that. I mean, I feel similarly in that there's nothing that I can add, and I'm just honored that you shared that story with us, and thank you for staying up.
Thank you for having me.
It was my honor and pleasure, and everybody who is here, I'm sure, feels the same way. Right? Am I right? Thank you. Give it up for Dima. Yay!
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Fulbright scholar. Hey now.
Woo!
Oh wow. Okay, so that's everybody, right? Zoe, give it up for Zoe, Kate, Caresse, and Dima. And BGSQD, Greg Newton, for hosting us for all 6.5 years.
Of course. Our pleasure.
And going, and you can now buy bookstores online from them directly because the bookstore is closed, and this is the only way that they're maintaining. So if you want to buy some queer books, I looked at it the other day, and they have quite an array of really lovely books.
Yeah,
Who is that?
The
writer. What was that?
We're adding more and more all the time.
Does anybody have any books that they want to submit for? Is that possible, Greg?
Yeah. We're always that's how so many books end up on our shelves, is people tell us what we should have. So,
and you sell zines as well, right?
What's that? Yeah, the zines is a little more complicated right now, because right now we're basically ordering from the distributor and having them ship it to people. So
got it. Oh, right. I see.
I'm not actually.
In terms of inventory.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
But we'll
so, anybody know any queer books that they haven't seen at BGSQD? Talk to Greg.
Yeah.
About it. And then, okay, so in the chat, everyone have all of the storytellers put their handles, their social media handles. And you can also, if you're at a loss, Instagram is Tell Queers. That's Tell Queers with a Z at the end. And I have tagged all of these folks and put pictures and bios of them, and you can follow them that way. And I myself am on Draebiz, DRAEBIZ. Feel free to follow me and Tell Queers, and you can find these artists there. If you want to donate some more money, that it will go 15% goes to Donnie in the bookstore, and then the rest we distribute among me and evenly among us. And you can Venmo BGSQD at BGSQD and just write that it's for Tell, and he'll give it to us. I mean, it's exciting stuff. Does anybody else have any announcements or plugs or anything they?
Drae, can I just mention that if people want to donate for any relief organizations in Lebanon, there are so many. Do not donate to the government. So there are all these alternative. Yeah, no, fuck no. So just the easiest way, I guess, would be to follow me on Instagram, and I'll put a post with all there's relief for queer people, LGBTQ plus community, for theater artists, and a lot
Oh,
more.
that's
So
good, because I feel like it's hard to know that when you're outside, because I've seen lists of like the Beirut Red Cross. Are they a good organization
yeah,
to?
no,
Okay.
they do brilliant things,
Okay.
and there's so many more. So if you just want to know
But
more
the
about it,
queer ones, yes, please. That
yeah,
would be
they're also
great.
on Instagram.
Okay.
So I can just point everybody to all of that.
And
Yeah,
what's your
thanks.
Instagram? What's your
Just
Instagram?
Dima Matta. I put it in the chat.
Okay, great. So yeah, do that, folks, because funds are still needed. Just hearing the conversion of money and the fact that it quadrupled, you said, just my heart goes out to you, and thank you. Anything else, anybody?
Please check out our upcoming events, bgsqd.com.
Yay. Okay, everybody, I think that's it. Thank you so much for your stories. Thank you for sharing. I love you all so much.
Thank you, Drae.
Yes, thank you, Drae.
Love you all back. It's a pleasure and an honor to be part of this. Appreciate
Thank you
it.
so much, Drae.
Yes.
Thank you. Oh man. And I guess that's it.
That's
Full
it.
of love.
YouTube.
Let's all say hi on our social medias, and make sure you look at all the stuff that Dima is posting about, and who to follow there and donate to, because donations are obviously still needed. And check on Dima. Everybody check. Keep checking on them. Right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
We're going to keep checking on you. We love you.
Okay.
Okay? All right.
Good night.
Take care.
Good night,
Be
everybody.
Good. Well.
Night.
All right.
Woo!
Yay.
We love you.
Aww.